let's talk about Jimmie Ward's broken hand. We thought it happened on the first play from scrimmage on defense. Kyle Shanahan corrected us and said it actually happened before then on the opening kickoff. Jimmie Ward was playing special teams in his first game back from a serious hamstring injury. What do you think of that?
I think it's dereliction of duty on Kyle's part. When I found out that Jimmie Ward was playing on special teams on his first day back and he broke his hand, it's a judgment on Kyle Shanahan on how poor his judgment was in that instance. Mm-hmm. Jimmie Ward is not just any other player. Football teams are not egalitarian societies. Some are stars, and you protect your stars. Yeah. Especially when they've been wounded. You protect your stars. So he's putting them out there. He says, well, essentially what he's saying is, we're equal here. We all have to do certain tasks. Bullshit. That's not how it works. And the proof of it is you got him hurt right away.
Let me think of what else Kyle might say. He might say, look, he's not in football shape yet, so I'm trying to get him in football shape by putting him on special teams. Well, that's a very risky, dangerous way to get a guy a couple sprints and a couple hits. Like that's so it's very high risk. For what reward? That you might tackle the kick returner at the 20 instead of the 25? Seems like a no gain, all lose situation. Think it through.
Well, if that's Kyle's rationale, I would say, how did it work out for you, Kyle?
Yeah. How did it go? Hey, that's football, right? That's what we would say.
Yeah,
hey, that's football.
How did it go, Kyle?
It's really unfortunate.
Jimmie is a rare talent.
Yes.
And he's a presence in that locker room. He's a real grown-up. And
yeah.
When you're injured and not playing, you don't have a presence in the locker room. Believe me, you don't. You don't exist just the way that Trey Lance does not exist. Now, Iggy, will he be able to play?
I don't know. I mean, he maybe they'll put a club on his hand, and then he could play with a club on his hand. But that's not ideal. He's a defensive back. He has to catch balls sometimes. I think this was really silly. And what's crazy is they did not need him to play special teams to beat Carolina. Even though Carolina almost returned two kicks. They did not need him to play special teams. They didn't need him to play anything to beat Carolina. They do need him to play in 2 weeks against Kansas City. Because even though you say they're overrated, Travis Kelce is not. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league, and he just caught 4 touchdown passes last night. And if you can't stop him, you're going to lose to the Chiefs. Jimmie Ward can stop him. Jimmie Ward is the best person in the NFL at covering tight ends. The best. He could have been the guy. Because if Travis Kelce isn't catching touchdown passes, no one's catching touchdown passes in that offense. So you had the ace up your sleeve against the team that he would have delivered the win. Now you may have jeopardized it because you needed him playing special teams against Carolina. Oops.
I love what you're saying, Iggy, and I'm going to go even a little further.
Yeah.
Again, I've never met Kyle, but I've seen him in action. I think he's shown this season a pattern of bad judgment. And I'm going to give you 2 examples. One is Trey Lance on the power run up the middle.
Yes.
How did that work out for you, Kyle? What was the benefit of that? Now you set this kid back another season. Now you got Jimmie Ward hurt because you were foolish enough to play him on special teams. This is bad judgment, and this is stuff that comes from the head coach. It's not like John Lynch is telling him, put Jimmie in on special teams or run this kid up the middle on a power run. It's him. And so I have to wonder, what the hell is he trying to prove?
What it almost
is he
trying? The message sounds like what he's saying is it's not my job to protect these players. Ooh. It's football. It's football. It's violent. It's my job to win the game. That's what it seems like, and that's what it seems like Mike McDaniel's attitude is in Miami as well. These two have been coaching together for 20 years. Look, it's a violent sport. The players know what they signed up for. I mean, they want the ball. I'll give them the ball. If they get hurt, you know, that's football.
Well,
that's what it seems like.
I think there are nuances in that.
I would think so. Because it's not just about them. It's about your team. You hurt your team.
Yeah. And you know, Iggy, Mike McDaniel, the blooms come off his rose.
Yeah, and you know, yes, if the Niners, let's say the Niners don't win the Super Bowl this year because they get a lot of injuries and they use the injury excuse for the 6th season in a row. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, okay, yeah, you were injured, but every year it's going to happen again next year too. What is the solution? Don't tell me it's bad luck. If it were luck, you would have a good luck year every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I guess I don't know. It's almost like Kyle Shanahan he was never a great athlete. He was never a tough guy. It's like trying to show he's a tough guy to his players. He's
Yeah.
not tough, but he's trying to show it through his players.
Yeah.
And, I used to talk to Bill Walsh about tough guy football.
Yeah.
By the way, he didn't like it. He didn't like when they called it finesse football, but it was.
Mhm.
And he said, Lowell, if you're a tough guy football team and that's how you win, and you go up against another tough guy football team that's tougher than you, what happens then?
Right. He was so smart. Like the conventional football thing is you run between the tackles because it's a tough guy thing to do, but it's hard and it's dangerous and there's not as much space. Why don't you just, instead of handing the ball to a running back to go between the tackles, why don't you throw it to him? What's the difference? Throw it to the running back. There's way more space over there. It's the same thing. Oh, because that's not as tough. That's not conventional football. Well, it's better though. It's better. Yeah.
What Bill used to say to me when he'd throw it, 3, 4 yards, 5 yards, he said it was extended handoff. That was his phrase. It's an extended handoff. For Kyle says he didn't watch Bill's film, which, by the way, I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
Again, he's got an ego. He'd be nuts to watch those films. Okay? But I think he could notice how Bill managed games and didn't get players hurt to the extent that this guy does.
He could also study like Andy Reid, who's a West Coast offense disciple via Mike Holmgren, and look at how Andy Reid gets the ball to his tight end in the red zone 4 times last night. Travis Kelce. It seems like George Kittle's caught 4 touchdown passes in the red zone his entire career. And yeah, he's not as good as Travis Kelce as a receiver, but Kyle's also not nearly as creative in the red zone as Andy Reid. So Kyle, you can just steal. You can steal. Steal from your favorite coaches, Andy Reid, Bill Walsh. I give you permission.
Andy Reid is in Bill Walsh's tree.
He is.
Holmgren.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No question.
He is, and he's a really good coach. We'll take a few more questions. Oh, go ahead.
Just before, he is a really good coach, and he's a better coach than Kyle Shanahan.
Yes. Now, it's interesting. Andy Reid never won a Super Bowl in Philly. He went to a bunch and came close but didn't win it. And I think he had a similar reputation as Kyle, but he improved. He improved big time.
And one reason is he got himself a quarterback.
Yeah, Kyle could have had Patrick Mahomes, and he was like, no thanks. I'm focused on Kirk Cousins. So he opened the door for the rest of the league. It was Kyle had the right of first refusal on Patrick Mahomes, and he was like, yeah, no thanks. Not for me. That's his legacy.
Can you imagine if Bill Walsh had seen Mahomes? He would have salivated.
Yeah.
He would have salivated.
So Walsh could do 2 things. He could evaluate a quarterback and develop him. Those are 2 very rare skills. I don't think Kyle has either skill. Like the quarterbacks he likes are not the greatest. And then the quarterbacks he tries to develop don't seem to improve. So I don't know.
Bill, he was a wide receiver at San Jose State. He liked to pretend he was Stanford, but he was San Jose State, which is fine. But, he was a lefty. But when he was coaching Montana, sometimes we had better access. Yeah. And he would take the ball in his right hand because Joe was righty, and he could throw the ball with his right hand. And you could see he was thinking along with Joe. And he would say, I want you to do this. And he would do it in his right hand.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Huh. And one of his attractions to Steve Young was he was a lefty, a lefty, and Bill's a lefty. And, in boxing, it's tricky, left jab, right cross. When you fight a lefty, it screws up your program. Everything is reversed. Bill felt that about Young. It would screw up defenses because everything was reversed. Yeah. Steve, when he went to college and then to the pros at first, when he went over after he got out of that USFL, what team did he go to?
LA Express.
No, after the LA Express.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay. Perkins, the coach, told me he didn't like to coach lefties. Bill loved to coach lefties. There was a prejudice in the league against lefty quarterbacks.
That's right. And it's funny. Like if you're a really talented lefty thrower, chances are baseball snatched you up in high school because the football coach probably didn't want to work hard enough to flip his entire offense, while the baseball coach is being like, man, you could make $20 million with that left arm. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Why would you even play football?